I'm so tired of this, whatever this is.
I think it's supposed to be over soon, right?
Yes,
The
I think tomorrow it's supposed to be like 90.
Really? Not that
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be 90. I just
Right?
want the sun
I
to
would,
come
can we
back.
settle it like a 75 to 80 and sunny? I would be fine with that.
Exactly.
You know,
As long as it's not humid, then we're okay.
seriously, you Midwesterner people and your survival rates with
You know,
that,
I'll be
unreal.
okay as long as you don't give me humidity.
I think that's fair. That's why I drew the line. Mark's looking at going to grad school and he was like, where can I go? And I was like, anywhere but the deep South. I'm not doing humidity.
I'm with him on that one. I'll visit. I'll gladly visit.
Yes.
Especially Southern food. Give me all the Southern food.
Yes. I haven't had a hush puppy in probably 20 years and I can still remember the taste.
Those are so good.
Oh, so good. Also, much like French fries, a great reason to transport ketchup to my mouth.
My boyfriend's the kind of guy who likes to dip anything, even if it doesn't need to be dipped. So like half of our refrigerator is basically condiments, just of barbecue and got a lot of barbecue.
I can respect that. It's mostly ranch here at my house for the dipping.
Okay. A lot of people do love ranch and dipping it in
Yes.
everything.
I did not realize when I moved to Oregon that apparently it's a very Oregon thing to dip your pizza in ranch dressing. But if you haven't tried it, you really should try it.
I'm down. It's not the
It's good.
weirdest thing I've heard people dipping their pizza in, so I'll gladly try that.
I'm afraid to
As long
follow
as there's
up
no
on that.
pineapple. I'm not down with pineapple on pizza. I'm sorry for anyone out there.
We're going to have to agree to disagree on that one. We should have some kind of fundamental difference between us. And I think that pineapple on pizza is going to be it.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
I'll accept that. All right, so we get started since it is Father's Day, which, by the way, to anyone out there who is a fur or human dad, happy Father's Day.
Hooray, happy Father's Day. All right, awesome. Yeah, let's get started. And then if our latecomers arrive, great. And if not, all the A students are here, so we're good. So hi guys, I'm Lauren. I am the certified dog trainer who owns Creative Canine Solutions. I have 3 dog training certifications. So clearly I'm committed to this process. I really love training dogs. I'm excited to host this webinar with you guys today. If you have any questions at any point, there is a chat feature. It should be open on your page. If not, you can just click chat. Feel free to type any questions as we go along in there.
And my name is Monika. I run Eugene Dog Services, and we offer drop-in visits, dog walking services, and boarding for pets. And Lauren and I have done a few webinars here. So for those of you who have joined us in the past, thank you. And thank you for joining us today.
Yay.
All right. So first, we just want to start off by saying a lot of these tips and tricks that we're going to be discussing today, may work for your dog. Maybe if you have 2, may work for one of your dogs, but doesn't mean it's going to work for both or all dogs because what may work for one dog may not work for another, and maybe your dog may need a combination of some of these things in order to really achieve the kind of results, so to speak, that you want to see. So anything else you want to add to that, Lauren?
No, that's perfect. I think we're going to run the gamut today between how to handle mild firework anxiety to more extreme responses. So hopefully some of the tips and tricks in here will work for all of you. It does require some level of experimentation.
Absolutely.
All right. So do you want to start with talking about prepping day of?
Sure.
Awesome.
Or even, I would say, before the day of, some really simple things that a lot of us forget to do just because of how busy we are is make sure if your dog is microchipped that all the information is up to date, that your dog, especially if he or she tends to run off or be very skittish, have a collar on with contact information. So if a neighbor happens to catch your dog, could easily bring it right back to your house. That has happened more than you think. As a dog walker, I'm out and about in lot, and I can tell you how many times I just see a dog darting the street, and I'm like, wait, that's not right. And luckily, I catch them and I'm able to return them. So just make sure that kind of information is up to date.
And to follow up on that too, for those of you who don't know, I do also work at Green Hill Humane Society as their dog trainer. July 5th is the busiest day of the year for the shelter every year because so many strays tend to come in. So not only is it important to have ID, have that microchip up to date, if your dog is licensed and has never gotten out before, you get a free pass to get your dog back out of the shelter and don't have to pay the impound fee. So now is a great time to get your dog licensed as well. Licensing is also the way that animal control will know if they pick up your dog, who you are, and where to return the dog to. And if animal control picks your dog up and they're licensed, they will bring them back to your house before they bring them back to the shelter. If your dog is spayed or neutered, it's like $15 a year to do it. Super easy, super cheap, well worth it. It also helps the shelter run and animal control run because that's where they get a lot of their funding.
Thank you for adding that. That is also very good to know because not everyone may even know about Green Hill Humane Society yet.
Or that they're legally technically required to license your dog, but I won't rat you out.
It's not for this discussion.
Uh-huh.
So on the day of the event, whether it's fireworks or even if maybe there's a loud concert going on next to your house or something, some things that we recommend doing, some obvious ones, you know, a long walk. I'm a huge fan of flirt poles. If you guys have not heard of a flirt pole, highly recommend you get one, especially if you have a dog with a high prey drive who just loves to chase squirrels.
Looks like a giant cat wand, the greatest invention ever.
Exactly. And it can really tire. I mean, if you have a dog who really goes after it, you can do like 10, 20-minute sessions and they're zonked. Oh, it's wonderful.
Seriously.
If you use a crate, or if you don't currently use a crate or a kennel, it could be a good time to start today by doing some desensitizing training. And, you know, in order to kind of prepare the crate, what I always do for our dog is put a lot of blankets in there, different chew toys, whether they're Bones. I'm a big fan of like beef bone marrow, whether they're raw or frozen. Licky mats, stuffing a Kong overnight, putting it in the freezer so that it takes them longer. Put a few of those kind of things in the kennel. If your dog though is a aggressive chewer, I would not recommend, you know, leaving like a Kong by himself unattended because I have heard of horror stories of that. Even with the extreme ones, the black ones. So
yes, and you don't really want to have your vet go in and fish that out later.
Yeah. Another thing you can do is cover the crate with a blanket so that it creates like a nice, just quiet, dark space for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's two different techniques, and I think Lauren will talk about the loud movies one because I'm a big fan of quiet movies or movies. Quiet music. You can literally go on Spotify and YouTube and type in calming music for anxious dogs, and you'd be surprised the plethora of playlists out there that you can play for an hour, and those are great. But Lauren, why would you recommend for some dogs, for example, who would be okay with it to play like a loud movie instead?
Yeah, this is a really good question. And to the music effect, like there is research done that when you play that kind of calming music, like dogs' heart rates lower. So for a lot of dogs, calming music is going to be the right choice. In my household, we do loud movies because it masks the sound of the fireworks outside. Because I wouldn't say we're movie aficionados. We don't have great taste in movies, but we love them. And so we watch movies a lot in my house. So that's a normal routine experience for my dog. And because we watch a lot of movies, if we watch something with a lot of like a Marvel movie, or we usually watch Independence Day because it's thematically appropriate, it's got a lot of loud rumbling and stuff like that. And it can help kind of confuse the noise of the fireworks from the noise of the movie and help mask that a little bit. So it depends on what your dog's used to. If you usually watch like very quiet movies or don't watch a lot of movies, I wouldn't go the loud movie route. But if you watch a lot of TV, loud movies can help mask some of the banging noises outside.
Are you a fan of using fans?
I am also a fan of using fans. So yeah, we'll give you the rundown of how my household handles 4th of July. We do a ton of flirt pole play in the backyard. Then we take a nap. Then we do chasing balls in the backyard. Right before dark, I close all the windows, turn on 2 different fans. We have a very small house, so we put a fan in 2 different rooms. So the fan's running, so that's background white noise. Close all the windows. We do not go outside after dark. As soon as dusk hits, we go for our last pee, and then we are done for the night. I put on a loud movie. My dog also gets a licky mat or a Kong to eat while we're hanging out in the living room. And she gets medication because she's mortified of fireworks. She didn't used to be. Then we moved into a neighborhood where people shoot off mortars. And that was the end of that. I literally have videos of her as like a 3 or 4-year-old dog watching fireworks. And then the next year, the neighbors set off mortars, and fireworks are not fun for us anymore.
Aww.
So we'll talk more about medication and other things later, but she has prescription medication she takes. And when those meds are on board and all this other stuff is in place, it might as well be a normal evening for her. The drugs don't zonk her out. She's not a zombie. She just gets sleepy and very relaxed. And with that, licking her Kong and then the soundproofing we've got going on, it's actually a fairly relaxing evening for us.
Those are awesome tips. A few other things that we have not mentioned yet. Some things like thunder shirts, those can be very hit and miss. I have a few clients who swear by them. And even if you can't splurge for a thunder shirt, if you're one of those people like me who have bought a lot of different shirts for my dog over the years, and some he may have outgrown, but you kept just because it's too cute, that could be a good option. Just make sure it's not too tight because you don't want it to be compressing too much so the dog can't breathe. But if you put on a thunder shirt in the beginning of the day, and a lot of times that will help your dog relax, because the idea is as kind of swaddling them like a baby. I don't believe there's necessarily any scientific evidence for this yet. It's very anecdotal, but I have, like I said, had a lot of clients who swear by a thunder shirt. Curious for anyone who's watching us today, if you have experience with a thunder shirt, why don't you go in our chat and just let us know if it has or hasn't worked for you, because I'm always curious to see what other people think of that kind of product. Yesterday, Lauren taught me about mutt muffs, which I have never heard of. So Lauren, you have to give us a rundown about mutt muffs.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to find a picture and I'm going to drop it in the chat. I did also just drop a link to how to make your own pseudo thunder shirt in the chat. So if you have an ace bandage, that will work. But mutt muffs are basically soundproofing headphones you can put on your dog. And they block sound completely. They use them for military dogs, generally if they're flying in helicopters and things like that. If you ever follow like border collies who work at airports and chase wildlife off of the or off the runways, they usually wear mutt muffs because they're soundproofing. Now, mutt muffs do require desensitization and training. So if you do want to go that route, get them ASAP so that you can prepare your dog to wear them, because most dogs don't respond super well to having things on their head. Anyone who's ever had to train their dog to wear a gentle leader knows what I'm talking about. But they are completely soundproof. And so for dogs who are comfortable with them, it can make a real difference because they can't hear anything at all. And that can be really helpful when there's fireworks. And there's a picture going in of what they look like. They're also really cute.
Have you seen them work well on a variety of dogs? You know, some dogs have floppy ears, some dogs have ears that stand straight up, and I would imagine some dogs it'd be easier for them to kind of have it, and my pup has like floppier ears.
Right.
Have you seen it work on a variety of dogs?
The only dog that I've ever seen who has successfully worn them was a lab. So we're talking like the stick down short floppy ears. I think that it would be harder potentially to fit them to like a basset hound. Although that being said, like German Shepherds wear them in the military and they have very stick uppy ears. So if anyone gives them a try, I'd be curious to see how it works out. But for that lab that I saw wear them, it made a real difference. Like he was much more comfortable and relaxed with them on. I know there's all sorts of weird stuff you can try.
I'm just going through a list that we have.
Yeah, you're good. I know we have so many options. Yeah. Oh, this is I think for most of you here, this is probably moderately obvious, but I think sometimes we don't think about it. First off, stay inside after dark. Like once the fireworks start going off, don't bring your dog outside, because if they bolt, you would be amazed what dogs are capable of when they're that afraid. And having worked at the shelter, I can tell you dogs who bolt from fireworks have gone through and over gates, under and over fences, popped boards out of fences to escape. And then the hard part is because the fireworks are continuous. Once your dog starts running and are panicked, they can't stop running because the fireworks continuously go off. And dogs have been picked up miles from their home after
Mm-hmm.
4th of July. So I don't go outside after dark. If there's an emergency and my dog really, really has to pee, she will go outside on leash if we have to go out at all. So I would get everything done before dark. Don't plan to go outside. And then obviously don't take your dog to fireworks displays. Don't take your dog to barbecues that are going to be happening during fireworks. Like if you have to leave your dog alone, leave them inside, preferably in a crate. And if this is your first 4th of July with your dog, I hate to be a party pooper, but I would plan to stay home because you don't know how your dog's going to respond, and you don't want to come home and find that they panicked and tried to force their way out of their crate or out of a window. I've seen dogs go through screens. Really just make sure that you're home, you're present, everything's locked down. With the pandemic, the major fireworks displays are canceled anyway. So you're not missing a ton of stuff, but I would just be really careful and assume the worst until you know how your dog will respond.
Especially if it's a puppy, you know, if you do go to a fireworks display, that one event may cause trauma for the rest of that dog's life. And
Mm-hmm.
even though you may want to in the future go out to events, you probably wouldn't be able to. So that's awesome advice, Lauren. Definitely just stay at home. And, you know, once you get to know your dog and after a few years, you see that they're calm, go ahead, try taking them out. And I think that would be a better kind of training baby steps towards some fun events outside.
Totally. And if you do have a puppy right now, like I know, Angela, you're on here and you have an itty bitty, if it is really important to you, your dog be successful with this kind of stuff, take this opportunity to train. So when fireworks go off, high value treats appear in front of your dog. I like to use baby food. I know Annette, who's on here, has done a blend of cream cheese and chicken broth in a tube. Whatever it takes for your dog to be like blown away by the deliciousness, chunks of steak, whatever it may be. When fireworks are happening, give your dog those things so that you're creating a positive association.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to wrap up, close your windows, close your doors. Even if you have blinds, shut your windows because even the bright lights can scare dogs, not just the loud noises. So just make sure you have, whether it's a very quiet, peaceful, ambient environment, or perhaps, as Lauren said, if you're a household who tends to have a lot of, you know, kids running around and movies playing, then your dog might be better off with a loud movie, some fans going, just to keep the noise out of your home.
Yes. And I just saw Angela message that they live near PK Park and there are fireworks scheduled 5 days this week. This segues perfectly into my next topic, which is medication. Also, I will say I have one client whose dog is absolutely mortified of fireworks, and we have never found medication that has worked, never found anything else that worked. And what works for them is to go camping, and they drive out and do dispersed camping way out in the mountains, and they hide, and then they come back into town when it's over, and that works great too. Just make sure if you're going to do that, you're going to an area where you're camping where no one will be setting off fireworks.
I love the dedication of pet parents. Seriously, that warms my heart.
I know, it's beautiful. Also, I'd rather go camping for 4th of July anyway.
I know.
So I think that's perfect. But let's talk medications. So there are several different kinds of medications that you can give to your pet that are anti-anxiety medication. They are prescription only, which can significantly reduce stress during acute events like fireworks. So you typically give them 1 to 2 hours before before nightfall. They'll generally last between 6 and 12 hours. So that should get you through the night. And if you need to do it for multiple nights in a row, your vet can prescribe something that's safe to give multiple doses of. If you opt to go that route, call your veterinarian tomorrow to schedule an appointment because they legally have to see your dog in order to prescribe those medications. And you want them early enough that you can try them ahead of time. Because some dogs have what's called an antithetical response to drugs. So what happens is instead of calming down, it actually winds them up. My first dog, Loki, who was a cattle dog mix, had this problem. We would give him a specific medication, and instead of relaxing, it would be like we'd given him methamphetamine. He was like bouncing off walls, barking at everything, running in circles. I'm really glad we tried it before the 4th of July because it would have been a disaster to give it to him and then have fireworks on top of it. Because we tried it ahead of time, we were able to go back to our veterinarian and find a different medication that worked. So you want to try them ahead of time to make sure they work. You want to know, is it a medication that if I give it and then we get an hour into the fireworks and it doesn't look like it's enough, can I give more of it? Because some medications you can increase the dose later if you need to. But you want to try those ahead of time. The other good reason to call your vet about it tomorrow is I can guarantee you the week leading up to 4th of July, your vet's going to be booked with people trying to get these medications. So the sooner you book your appointment, the sooner you can get your meds to try them, the sooner you can know whether or not they're going to work. So meds can make a real difference. I know that there's a lot of controversy around whether or not it's appropriate to drug our dogs. I absolutely think so. I take some of that kind of medication when I fly because flying absolutely terrifies the sweet bejesus out of me. And I am so glad to have those meds when I fly. I know my dog is grateful to have them during the fireworks. So I strongly recommend, if you are on the severe end, or if you don't know how your dog is going to respond and you know you have 5 days of fireworks you have to get through, get some medication just so you have it. See how they do the first night. Give the medication the second night if it didn't go well. Drugs. They're so helpful.
You have experience with them. I have not had any prescription medication for our dog, so I'm very grateful for your insight, because as you said, that could be a very controversial topic, just like even heartworm medication or just vaccines in general. So I'm really glad that you had some insight about that.
Yes, they're super helpful. They make a huge difference for us every year. Cannot recommend enough talking to your veterinarian about them if you have a dog who has a really, like, a severe response to fireworks.
And would you recommend, even for some of our puppy parents, that even if this is their first fireworks experience where they may or may not have an anxious response, would you recommend that they go ahead and just touch base with their vet anyway and get those?
I absolutely would. You will be much happier having them and not needing them than not having them and having needed them. Yes. So I always think it's a great idea. And again, you need to test them ahead of time to make sure your dog responds appropriately. So I would say yes. Like, if you are at all unsure how your dog is going to respond, talk to your vet and see what they recommend.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. The next thing that I'll be discussing is a topic that I can spend honestly an hour or two about, which is CBD.
It's like drugs.
Exactly. It's an ailment, or it's great for everything.
Yes.
I'm joking. It's not. I really hate when people say that, because it's very not true. With that being said, there's a few things I really want to touch base upon with CBD when you're purchasing products, because they can be very expensive. But unfortunately, there's a lot of very bad products with no CBD in them, but they have a label on it that says there's specific amounts of CBD in it. So one thing that you always want to look for is transparency. Do they have test results? A lot of times for companies that are transparent, you can go right onto their website, whether by a serial number or lot number, get test results and see exactly how many cannabinoids, which is CBD, CBN, and even trace amounts of THC are perfectly legal in all 50 states, as long as there's, I believe it's under 0.4%. So if you look at test results and you see a wide range of cannabinoids, that's a wonderful thing. Another thing to look for are something called terpenes that should also be prevalent within CBD in test results. So again, when you purchase it, whether on their website or even at a store, I would say go to a store that you trust. Build trust with your local pet store. See if they're knowledgeable, or if they seem like they're just kind of making things up to sell you a really expensive product. I'm never scared to ask questions when I'm buying CBD products. Another thing to look for is whether it says whole plants or whole hemp extract, because those tend to have those wide range of cannabinoids and terpenes, because what they're doing is utilizing the whole hemp plant and putting all that back into the oil, and not just CBD isolate. So CBD isolate is a lot cheaper. Some companies can buy it in bulk, put it in something like a carrier oil, which is oftentimes coconut oil or MCT oil, and sell it to the masses. And that is a product that will not help in any way, because isolate oftentimes doesn't contain much CBD at all. Even though it'll say on the bottle 1,000 milligrams of CBD oil, it does not mean there's 1,000 milligrams of CBD in that particular bottle. That's why it's so important to ask for test results and see exactly how much is in that bottle. And there is a general rule of thumb for how much CBD oil to give pets. It's about 1 to 5 milligrams of CBD per 10 pounds of dog weight, 1 or 2 times a day. But with a lot of things, even prescription medication, which I'm sure there's a more, actually, Lauren, I'm curious. With prescription medication, is there a specific dosage where they say, if this is how much, that's going to work for your dog, and if it doesn't, don't give your dog more?
So generally, it depends pretty heavily on the medication, but for most of the acute anti-anxiety medications, there's a starting dose, and then you can increase up to a specific amount.
And then you kind of have to stop.
Yeah, there hits to be a point where it's like, okay, don't give them anymore. Like if you hit the max dose and it hasn't worked, then that drug will not work for your dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, with CBD, it's very similar. You want to start small and then increase the dose as you see fit in order to see your desired results. So for anxiety, with people, when you take CBD, if you're someone who does, you can tell whether you feel calmer or if it's helping you in some way. Obviously, as much as I wish I can and ask my dog, hey, do you feel calmer? You can't. So that's why I always say, there is no, one size fits all for CBD. I would say start with that general rule of thumb. And by buying it ahead of time, try giving your dog, let's say that if your dog weighs 10 pounds, try with 1 or 2 milligrams of CBD one night. If you don't see any difference, if your dog is anxious, go ahead and increase that. The one beautiful thing about CBD is that it is non-toxic. So you can't kill your dog by overdosing them. However, you still can get adverse effects, which is drowsiness. They can get some tummy aches or just intestinal kind of, what's the word?
Distress, maybe?
Yes, exactly. So you do want to be careful, but don't go overboard, but it is generally safe. So those are kind of my few tips, because again, I can go about for hours and hours, but those are some things I would say you want to start with. And there are 2 companies that I would highly recommend, and I'll go ahead and type them in the chat. So if you guys are interested in CBD, these 2 websites are a great starting point, because not only do they offer a lot of education, they have the test results and everything. So if you just want to click through the websites and play around, you'll really learn a lot by just going to those 2 websites. And another thing is, one of them, Oregon based, they grow their hemp here in Oregon. The other company, I believe, is out of Colorado, but both of them grow their own hemp, which is very important because hemp is a bioaccumulator. So if someone buys the hemp from, let's say, China, in an area where it's grown, where there's a lot of chemicals and things in the soil that are not good for your dog, that hemp is going to absorb it right up. That processor is going to buy it, extract it, and then that's going to be in high doses in an oil. So it's really important to buy, in my opinion, USA organic hemp by some very specific companies within the United States. Don't go to Amazon and don't buy just any product because they say it's the cure-all for everything with CBD.
I learned a lot. This is fascinating.
CBD is truly, it's fascinating. I do think it's helpful for some things like anxiety and stress, and definitely for pain. But I think a lot of companies out there are trying to claim that it's going to cure your dog of everything or cure you of everything. And that's not true, unfortunately. I wish it was, because that would be amazing, but it's just not true.
Totally. So. And with any of the medication supplements we're talking about, anything like that, always check with your veterinarian. I'm giving really general advice with what I know about medication, having given it. My husband is a vet assistant. Neither of us are veterinarians. So with anything you're going to give, always check with your vet. Make sure that your vet knows, because they will know you can't give this medication or don't give this supplement because your dog has XYZ condition, whatever the case might be. So always go to your vet, always check with them before giving anything that may potentially interfere with anything else going on with your dog. Disclaimer, cleared.
Yes.
Speaking of things that can be helpful to check with your veterinarian, essential oils. Essential oils are kind of like thunder shirts. They may work, they may not. Efficacy on essential oils is kind of hit or miss. It does seem like there are specific essential oils that can be really helpful. It is important to know anytime you use essential oils, whether or not it is safe to use for your dog, how you need to administer it for it to be safe. A lot of essential oils are not safe for animals to consume, but they are safe to diffuse. And if you have other species, so if you have cats tend to respond really, really poorly to essential oils. So if you are going to use an essential oil, you have other species, you need to make sure that species will be comfortable and okay, and that it's not toxic to them. But that being said, I have personally had success with lavender essential oil and with, not to plug a specific brand, but Young Living makes a essential oil blend called TOA. It is specifically meant for pets. And I have also personally seen that work. That's anecdotal evidence for you right there. One person's seen it work. So for what I discovered using these essential oils on my specific dog, often you'll hear the advice like rub it on their paws or their ears. That didn't do anything for either of my dogs. What worked for my dog was diffusing a mix of lavender and TOA in a diffuser and having her in the same room as the diffuser. Because if we use just TOA, she would leave the room because apparently it's a very strong smell, to her at any rate. So the other thing to think about is if you are going to diffuse essential oils, your animal's sense of smell is much stronger than yours. So go really light. The other thing you can do to try and see if your dog even likes it is put a little bit of a diluted essential oil on a cloth. Leave the cloth where your dog can see it. If they smell it and seem interested, might be an essential oil that they're comfortable with the smell of. If your dog starts sneezing or flees, probably not the right choice. So test them ahead of time. Make sure that you're picking essential oils that are safe for all of the animals in your home. And I would never apply essential oils topically without checking your veterinarian first, because you want to make sure if your dog's going to lick it off, that it's going to be safe for them to have ingested it.
And I did just post a dilution ratios little chart based on your pet's body weight. So definitely important to make sure it's diluted. And I'm also a fan of Young Living because are they already diluted?
I don't
The pet formulations.
The bottle of TOA that you get is not diluted, so it
Okay.
has to be diluted in order for you to use it.
Because I do believe they have a few different, from my experience from a friend who works for them. I think they have some blends that are already diluted. So if you're someone who is like, oh, I don't want to play around with dilution, that scares me, I do believe if you go into their website, there are some blends that are already diluted.
And they may have ways you can buy it that has like, it's already got a carrier oil and stuff like that in it. Totally.
And carrier oil is usually like, you can do olive oil, but I think most common coconut oil is what a lot of people use.
And coconut oil is good for your pet's skin.
And make sure when you are purchasing essential oils that they're not fragrance oils. You can very easily go to a place like Walmart or Target and get, there's $1 or $2 fragrance oils, but those are synthetic, and if you in high concentrations were to diffuse them, they could be potentially quite dangerous for your pet. So I would stay away from that, especially if you're trying to apply it topically. Then you definitely want to stay away from fragrance oils. That is not something you want to put onto a dog's ears or paws or anything like that.
Totally. It does look like Young Living has an ointment in addition to, so the ointment's already diluted.
Oh, that's what's diluted.
So they do have stuff in addition to. Yeah. And essential oils, kind of like what Monika was talking about with CBD, you really want to make sure that where they're coming from, that they genuinely hold what they hold, because it's an unregulated industry. So again, checking with your veterinarian to see if they have like a brand that they recommend, just to make sure that you're getting what you are supposed to be getting and not something else is really important.
And I have another awesome friend who's a dog trainer in Milwaukee, and she oftentimes uses actually Young Living essential oils. And the ones that she recommended were lavender, bergamot, frankincense, chamomile. And this one's a little controversial on some websites, which by that I mean some say don't use it, others say it's fine, which is ylang ylang. I'll write some of these out
Oh,
because the
boom, I
way that,
got it for you, girl.
thank you. I
No
had to
promises
look
on
up how you say
spelling.
the last one, for example. I was like, how on earth? But I did confirm with a canine aromatherapist, believe it or not. Her name is Kristen Leigh Bell, and that was on her list of those are okay to use.
I actually
And
feel like TOA has a lot of those in it.
I'm sorry?
I think TOA, the blend that I like, has a lot of those in it.
Those in it?
Yeah, it's frankincense, chamomile, lavender, tangerine, and sandalwood.
Oh, fun.
So, yep. Also, ylang ylang works great for humans too. If you are a human who has anxiety, it smells really good. I, as a human who have anxiety, really like that one.
The last product I wanted to kind of plug in with essential oils is something called Canine Calm. And it was actually developed, oh my gosh, I think like 20 years ago for a doggy daycare boarding facility to help them with their anxious boarders and overnight canines. And very similar kind of, sorry, I'm trying to see if they actually have the essential oils listed, which they
I
obviously
know, I
don't.
was like, I am
They
looking.
don't have the formulation, but it's a very similar product. They use a blend of essential oils that have been proven to kind of decrease anxiety and stress. And it's worked great in a lot of different boarding facilities. So that one is called K9 Calm, and they have a spray and a roll-on and a plethora of different things. And that product is already diluted too. So it's one of those things that you can purchase, get, and then go ahead and use it per their instructions and not worry about having to formulate anything.
Awesome. That makes it easy. I like easy things. We always joke that I'm the lazy dog trainer. I always want to pick whatever is going to be the easiest thing to execute because that's the thing you're most likely to do.
Which is ironic because you're a positive reinforcement trainer, which is not always easy.
Fair. I guess we want to pick the easiest, most humane thing that we can do at any given time because I want it to be something you feel comfortable doing and can actually do. I don't want to make it so complicated that you're like, that's going to take a ton of time. I know how busy we all are. But we also want it to be nice and fair and gentle to your dog. So yeah. So there's one last thing that you can use that we wanted to talk about today, which is pheromones. There's a product called Adaptil or DAP. It's dog appeasing pheromone. And you can get it at your veterinarian. Some pet stores sell it. It essentially is a synthetic version of the hormone and pheromone that mother dogs give off while nursing. They have done research into it. It's about 50 to 60% efficacy for dogs. It really just depends on your dog. I personally have never had a dog for whom it worked. But both of my dogs are rescues, so I don't know how long they were with mom after having been born, and that seems to have an impact potentially. I know all this like science. So it can be fairly expensive for something where essentially you could flip a coin to see if it works. But it can't hurt to try it because the worst thing that happens is your dog doesn't respond. So yeah, that's kind of the last thing that you can try. It also does not have a smell that humans can detect, which is kind of nice. So if you're smell sensitive and you're like, essential oils are definitely not going to work for me, you can try DAP or Adaptil. It comes in a plug-in wall diffuser. It comes in a spray you can put on like a collar or on a bandana. And it also comes in what looks like a flea collar that you can put on, that when it's up against the skin, it warms up and it gives off the pheromone. I would recommend, if you've never tried it, that you start with the spray and do it like an essential oil, spray it on a cloth, and then leave the cloth lying near your dog, so that they have the choice to investigate or move away from it if they don't like it. Because if you spray it on a bandana, your dog doesn't like it, they're then riding around with it stuck to them. So try all of them first, make sure your dog likes them, because I know that there are smells that I cannot stand and I would hate to have them wrapped around me. So It's the same for dogs. The first time I tried TOA, I sprayed it on a bandana and put it on my dog, and she was trying to run away from the smell, which is why we found out diffusing it at a really low ratio works much better for her.
And you remember, even if you think it's a faint smell, your dog may think it has a very strong smell. So just keep that in mind.
Yes, their scent's much, much stronger than ours. So
I think that kind of wraps everything up. Thank you guys for joining us. And I just want to already reiterate what Lauren said earlier, is that we're not medical professionals. You know, these were a lot of tips and tricks that we have found useful for our own dogs, for clients that we have who do have anxious puppies, who have used these things like thunder shirts and even pheromones. So just try a variety of things, and we're hoping that it does help your pup. And if you have, can you please repeat the pheromone brand?
Oh, boom. I just got them in there. And here's their website.
Lauren, she's on top of it.
Boom.
If you guys have any follow-up questions about anything, feel free to message us, email us. We're always happy to give you guys more information, whether it's about CBD, essential oils, what brands we talked about, just anything. We're happy to help.
Definitely. Yeah. If you have any other questions, leave them in the chat. We'll probably wrap up in a minute. Just give you guys a chance to ask any more if you have them immediately. Otherwise, I, having worked at the Humane Society, would argue that the most important thing that you can do to prepare is make sure that your dog's ID tag is up to date and that their microchip is up to date. The second most important thing you can do is make sure that they are indoors and don't have an easy route to escape the building, which means no windows open and things like that. So priority number one is to keep your dog safe and try to prevent escape. If for any reason they are going to get out, make sure that they are wearing identification, make sure that they are microchipped.
And microchips are usually what, $25?
You can get them done really inexpensively at local spay and neuter clinics and things like that. Your veterinarians can give them. And once you register it, unless you need to update it, there's no fee going forward. If you need to update it, I think it's $20 or $25 to do that. But otherwise, all that information is there. They're really great because any veterinarian, any animal control officer can scan for them. And call the microchip company, which is open 24/7. And then they can give people your first name and your phone number. Or they will call you themselves, put you in touch with the person who found your dog and get your dog back to you. And Alicia's totally right. Check your fences, check your gates, make sure everything is secure. Don't trust that your dog will not attempt to go over or under in the event of an emergency. So if you have to go outside after dark, put a leash on your dog. I realize all of this sounds really, really scary. But I would rather it scare you and you think really hard about it than find out that there's a hole in your fence too late in the game.
And some dogs who are not diggers may on a day like fireworks where they're very stressed out, feel like digging all of a sudden and want to escape, because I definitely had a client who thought that. She's like, my dog's not a digger. He'll be okay. She let him out to potty at night and she went back 2 minutes later and she's like, oh, he dug a hole. So definitely thank you, Alicia. That is a really great tip that we did not mention.
Definitely. And make sure your gates are secured and shut. If it's windy, gates can blow open, fences can blow down. And my fence is, I think, older than my house. And I have no doubt in my mind, my dog never tests the fence line. But if she panicked, I have no doubt in my mind that she would be able to knock boards out. So be safe, be extra careful if you don't know how your dog's going to respond. And if they do get out, call your local animal control, call the Humane Society, let them know your dog is missing so that they can reunite them quickly. Contrary to popular belief, the shelter would prefer dogs not come to them. So if your dog is out and missing and you leave a lost report with them, if someone calls and says, hey, I just found this beautiful gray and white pit bull who's not wearing a collar because it popped off when he ran away, the Humane Society can be like, well, that looks like Monica's dog and she called earlier and left a lost report. We can reunite you outside the shelter and you can get your dog back faster.
Exactly. As someone who volunteers there, I think Green Hill is wonderful. So I would definitely highly recommend supporting them in any way.
Shucks, thanks. I mean, worst thing that's worse, if any of your dogs get out and come to Green Hill, I will snuggle them until you come get them.
Exactly. They may not even want to go back to you because they'll want to be with Lauren the whole time.
I'm really fun and I give a lot of cheese.
See, your dogs escape because they want to go to Green Hill to get to Lauren's cheese.
I'm not gonna lie, we had one neighbor whose dog kept getting out, and the first time she got out, she ran to our front door, I think just because she was investigating things, and I happened to open it, and when I saw her, I gave her cookies, and the 3 times after that she got out, she just ran straight to our house.
Oh, that's
Um,
cute.
yeah, so train your dog to run somewhere to get cookies. That's the important lesson here.
That's smart. Smart dog.
All right. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. Like Monica said, if you have any questions, please email or contact us. I think all of you have my email address because that's how you signed up for the webinar. So please reach out if you have any questions, need any help, let us know. If you live in Monica's neighborhood, she's really good at finding loose dogs.
Or even if it's not in my neighborhood, call me and I'll come help. No problem.
Yes, we've come and hunted dogs down before. We would be glad to help. So
Oh, yeah, I seriously have treats and a leash in my car at all times.
yes.
No.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Same. We always have slip leads. You just never know. Better safe than sorry.
Those of you who are still here, sorry that we keep going off tangent, and thank you for sticking around. Let's blab.
We can do this all day. All right. Well, happy Father's Day, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming. Monica, thanks for doing another one of these with me. It's always so fun. Bye, Alicia. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Happy Father's Day. Bye.
Bye.